Welcome to Airplay Escape. Please consider subscribing to my Patreon account for the full audiobook. Thank you for your support. Football, the strongest center in history, Episode 11, sign him. Immediately. When Ronaldo once again pulled over to the ground, he actually gasped. I'm not strong enough. It's not strong enough. Although this is an increasingly abnormal game, the other side can be acquiesced to fouls. However, the pride in Ronaldo's heart told him. Even so. He can't throw in the towel either. He definitely doesn't throw in the towel. Lao Tzu is Ronaldo, how can he admit defeat? No one can stop me. I'm just going to score. Ronaldo roared inwardly as he stood up again. This kid. Bastian's expression was full of appreciation. If the average person encounters this situation, they will almost admit defeat. Because everyone knows that such a situation is not normal. Just with his previous goal, he has actually succeeded, and he can't keep fighting. But this kid has a stubborn face. It is full of energy that will never stop until you defeat your opponent. Maybe this kid can become a big man in the future. Bastian thought. As a scout, he knows all too well what qualities those world-class stars have. Strong to perverted desire to win. This is a common trait of most world-class players. Luo Wei's face was a little worried. He watched again and again as his son was dragged to the ground. In such a situation, the offensive becomes almost impossible. Come on, son. Luo Wei roared from the sidelines. No matter what the situation, the father is always the strongest support for the son. Even if people all over the world don't believe in Ronaldo, he will choose to believe his son. Football is flying again. Ronaldo looked up at the football flying in the air, and the route of the ball clearly appeared in his mind. However, his body did not move. Because he was firmly grabbed by the clothes of two youth team players. Seeing that football was coming, he was fixed in place as if he had taken root under his feet. I'm Ronaldo. How could I be trapped by such a defense? Ronaldo gritted his teeth. The neck is flushed. The bruises on the forehead burst out. He is struggling to break free from his opponent's pull and interference. There was even some panic in the eyes of the young guard who pulled his clothes. He is also red in the neck and white in the knuckles of his fingers. Such a pull is so shinka. Such an experience is the first time he has met in his football career. Two hands held Ronaldo. He was joined by another player. This time, you can finally hold this behemoth, right? However, it didn't go his way. He felt that he was pulling not a person, but a fierce beast. No matter how hard he pushes, this ferocious beast is about to break free. Hiss. He suddenly heard the sound of the cloth being torn. He was horrified to see that the jersey he was holding cracked in front of his eyes. Then, this scene gets bigger and bigger. Ronaldo rushed forward desperately. There are two people dragged behind him. The resistance is huge. However, he suddenly felt a light behind him. Ronaldo was overjoyed. Suddenly breaking free is like a wild horse out of control, and even more like a tiger out of the cage. In that instant, he has already flown into the air. The two defenders who won the face were in front of Ronaldo. The two jumped up at the same time and pinched Ronaldo. Bar's body couldn't help but lean forward. That's what he wants to see. How would you perform against such a defense? Ronaldo. Ronaldo's answer was to directly crash into the central defender who intercepted him in the air. It's like a car accident in the air. The big truck hit the car. Trigula decay. When the two central defenders were knocked away, they saw that Ronaldo was already facing the ball in the air and shook his head suddenly. Shake your head and attack. The football runs straight to the back point. The goalkeeper made a very good save. He jumped up like a fish jumping out of the water. The posture is very beautiful. However, he can only be a foil to this wonderful goal. Back in the time he took off. The football has already flown into the goal from the dead end. The audience was silent. All that remains is the sound of expulsion and the friction of the net. Ronaldo stood in the restricted area. Binocular round stool. He looked at the football, clenched his fists, opened his hands, and looked at the sky. Refreshing. Nothing is cooler than a goal like this. This challenge, there is no doubt that Ronaldo has won. Sign him. Immediately. Right away, Bar jumped up from his seat. His gaze never left Ronaldo. He looked at Ronaldo's eyes as if he was looking at a precious jade. A treasure jade whose value cannot be calculated. Priceless. Episode 12. Complete the main quest and reward the skill, King of the Forbidden Zone. Bastian laughed. Ronaldo's performance fully proves his vision. If Ronaldo does better in the future, he will even be promoted to the position of chief scout of Paris Saint-Germain. Bastian has been coveting this location for a long time. This kid finally didn't embarrass himself, which also proves that his performance yesterday was not blind. At this time, he was relieved. There is no need to continue this game. Just because of the qualities that Ronaldo showed in these 2 goals, it was enough for Paris Saint-Germain to give Ronaldo a contract and carefully cultivate. Otherwise poor? Never mind. Just heading at this body is enough to develop Ronaldo into that kind of impactful center. In the world of football, every player with characteristics can find his own way of survival. In Bar and others, they will never be able to develop Ronaldo into the kind of technical big man Ibrahimovic who passes 5 defenders in a row at the front of the box and then puts the ball into the goal. But Ronaldo's strength and bounce, his height, and his ability to head for points are his biggest weapons. Don't look a little monotonous, but with this alone, if you use this ability to the extreme, you can also occupy a place among the world's first-class centers. As the saying goes, one trick is fresh, eat all over the sky. Ronaldo is not afraid even if he can only head the ball. This match that tested Ronaldo's strength was terminated early. Bar fears that continuing the competition will destroy the morale of his youth players. Young people must have a frustrated education, but they must not be slapped to death. Things always have to be abused. And Ronaldo's strength is also well tested. He is really not flattering in terms of technical aspects of his feet, and his shooting skills are also poor. But he has excellent physical fitness, a natural height advantage, and then he is also accurate in judging the landing point of the football, and his header technique is also very good. Bar immediately clapped and signed Ronaldo. As a youth team coach, you still have the power to sign a youth team player. He decided to give Rona an extra 1-year contract first, train first, if there is room for training, then continue to sign, if not, then give up at that time, there is no loss. Anyway, the club does not have to spend a penny to sign this person, and it is only the salary of the youth team, which is not high. Even if Ronaldo really doesn't play in the end, Paris Saint-Germain will not suffer. If it is kicked out, it will make a lot of money. When Ro heard that Paris Saint-Germain was about to sign his son, he just smiled silly. It's a dream come true. Came to Europe, suffered from white eyes, snubs, and even ridicule. Luo Wei took his son, an ordinary Sichuan man, and almost circled around the European continent. Have pity on the hearts of the parents of the world. For the sake of his son's dream, Luo Wei endured too much. But the end result was good. Although the experience is a little tortuous. But without experiencing a little wind and rain, how can you see a rainbow? Dad. After hearing that Paris Saint-Germain had signed him, Ronaldo immediately went to his father. His eyes widened and he shouted at his father, "Is this true?" Luo Wei sounded what he had experienced in the past month, and his eyes couldn't help but moisturize. He nodded vigorously, "Really? It's true, huh?" "Ha ha ha ha," Ronaldo burst out laughing. He saw a way. A road to the top. He turned his head and looked around. Many people are watching them. Those youth players were also watching Ronaldo. In their gaze, there is admiration. There is apathy. Kimpembe swung his fist at Ronaldo. Ronaldo smiled at him. Instead, Luo Wei calmed down first, and taught his son with a straight face, "Of course, it's good to sign the contract, but don't be too happy, I tell you, this is only the first step of a long march, you must not be impulsive anymore." "No not? Feed. I'm talking to you about business, that's much." Ronaldo was so happy that his mouth cracked to the root of his ear. I know, listen, Dad." Seeing his son's happy look, Luo Wei was not good and continued to teach with a straight face. A smile resurfaced on his face. Being signed by Paris Saint-Germain is definitely not easy for a Celestial Empire player. Even if you can't play for Paris Saint-Germain's first team in the future, it is not difficult to find a place elsewhere in Europe with this experience. "Thank you, Daddy." Ronaldo suddenly turned around and gave his father a powerful hug. If my father hadn't brought him out, he might never have had the opportunity he had today. In order to bring himself out, the father, who has always been strict with wife control, lied to his mother. And they also took big risks and borrowed money from relatives and friends. This time back, Dad must have made money desperately to pay off debts. I must play well in the youth team, play the first team early, and after getting the salary of the first team, this debt is nothing. Luo Wei patted his son's broad back. "Anyway, play well, that's much." Ronaldo nodded vigorously. Seeing this scene, the coaches around laughed. It's a beautiful and warm picture. Bar clapped his hands. "Okay, young man, if there is no problem, let's sign first." Luo Wei quickly nodded, yes, signing is important. There were no big people to witness, no reporters, no flashing lights. In a very monotonous room. Bar, Paris Saint-Germain's youth team director. Ronaldo, an 18-year-old young center. Both parties signed their names on a contract. "Congratulations, Ronaldo. You're a player in Paris now." Bar stood up and shook hands with Ronaldo. Next to it, Scout Bastion made a cameo appearance as a photographer and took this photo with his mobile phone. No one who witnessed it would have imagined. In the future, this photo will be one of the most famous photos in the history of world football. Ronaldo certainly wouldn't have thought of this at this time. He had a smile on his face. A voice sounded in his head, ding. Congratulations on completing the main quest and getting the mission reward, skill, King of the Forbidden Zone, Episode 13. The roster of the competition, the system has been upgraded. After these 2 days of temptation, Ronaldo was sure that the translucent light curtain that appeared in front of his eyes would not be seen by anyone except him. That's it with the skills of an Air Master, then. And another King of the Forbidden Zone? King of the Restricted Zone, LV1, skill description, with silver level Forbidden Area running experience, there is a 10% chance to trigger the King of the Forbidden Area aura, and after triggering, you can have a 100% weakness judgment skill. Almost at this moment, Ronaldo's mind seemed to be stuffed with a huge breath. The experience of running in the box, the experience of all kinds of games, all stuffed into his mind. Silver level experience in restricted area running? Ronaldo has some doubts about this level. The system divides the level of professional players into 5 levels: bronze, silver, gold, diamond, and king. In his mind, the voice of the system sounded in time, and he explained it to Ronaldo very intimately. While his father was chatting with the bar manager, Ronaldo asked the system in his mind. So which rank do I belong to? You have no rank. How can I not have a rank? Because you haven't met the requirements of a professional footballer, you are not a professional footballer. My day. Am I not strong enough to play in the top league now? Ronaldo asked with some dissatisfaction. It's really not enough. Ronaldo was silent. Since the system believes that his strength has not yet reached home, then keep practicing. My father left Paris and flew home. Ronaldo is full of imagination for romantic Paris, especially when the matter of signing a team is settled. Ronaldo has more experience and thinks about everything. But it backfired. The days of joining Paris Saint-Germain's youth academy are extremely boring, and he imagined the lively nightlife of Paris, and the sexy French beauty. If you are lucky, you may be able to fight a sexy white girl for 300 rounds. Where did he think that he was now trapped inside Paris Saint-Germain's training base in the eastern suburbs of Paris? Considering that he was only 18, the club did not rent him outside, but directly let him live in the youth team dormitory. Paris Saint-Germain's training base is located on the outskirts of Paris, surrounded by lush natural parks, and is very quiet at night. Ronaldo, who lacks transportation, can only look at the night sky of Paris every day. This system has not moved since the last Forbidden Zone King's reward. It seems to have gone into hibernation temporarily. No matter how Ronaldo called, he did not move. There is a TV in the dormitory, but it is all in French. Ronaldo is teaching himself French, but for a while it won't be enough to watch local TV shows. Such days are indeed difficult. However, Ronaldo still threw himself into training with great enthusiasm. Oh, it's in again. On the training ground, Ronaldo once again put the ball into the goal, drawing cheers from the players around him. Ronaldo was outgoing and quickly became involved with his youth teammates. In the youth team, interpersonal relationships are still relatively simple. Moreover, these youth team players are not stupid, and the strength shown by Ronaldo is enough for them to take the initiative to make friends. On the football field, strength speaks. Bar was naturally very satisfied with Ronaldo's performance. So when he decided to put Ronaldo in the squad for the weekend, the coaches around him didn't feel any surprise. Although Ronaldo has only been training with the team for less than a week. But with Ronaldo's strength, even if he has not trained with the team, he is eligible to enter the squad. This weekend is the first round of the 2011 to 2012 season of the French Under-19 League. Paris Saint-Germain U19 opponent is Valenciennes U19, a not very tough team. When Bar finished training today and read the squad in front of all the players were not surprised that Ronaldo was in the squad. This week, Ronaldo was completely impressed with them. This is mainly because Ronaldo is so good at scoring. They can't guard against it at all. Here we go. When it comes to the game, Ronaldo doesn't have to defend him himself. Several central defenders in the youth team breathed an inexplicable sigh of relief. And Ronaldo was not surprised by this, he was a little excited in his heart. Join Paris Saint-Germain's youth team for a week and finally, it's time to start the game. Ronaldo only felt that he had nowhere to vent his energy and wanted to have a good game on the field. Just at this time, the sound of the system, which had not been moving for a week, sounded. Ding. The system upgrade is complete, ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest, enter the tournament roster for the first time, reward 100 experience, ding. System release mission, first match debut, system bonus experience, 100, ding. The training ground function has been updated. A series of sounds sounded, which made Ronaldo shiver. Episode 14, Skill Tree and Super Training Ground. After training, after dinner, in the canteen of the training base, Ronaldo returned to his dormitory. Speaking of which, this dormitory is also deserted enough. Most of Ronaldo's teammates are locals, and the only few academy players who are not locals also joined the team at a very young age. Therefore, the club found them a local family to foster. Such families are generally loyal fans of the team. Europeans value family time, so they don't let their children live in cold dormitories from an early age, but let them live in a family. It's just that Ronaldo is already 18 years old, and naturally, it is impossible to go to a certain family to foster. Therefore, the dormitory is cold and deserted, which is also normal. Ronaldo also has little entertainment. After dinner, he returned to his dormitory and entered the system. This is the difference in the system at first glance. The originally cold silver-white space turned into the appearance of a stadium. Ronaldo fixed his eyes. Isn't this the training ground of the youth team? How was it moved here by the system? Could it be that the upgrade in the past few days is just doing this? It's not just that. A mechanical voice sounded. Ronaldo was startled and turned to look. I saw a shiny robot. It's like Robot 1K2S0 in Star Wars. How? Is this image sci-fi enough? The mechanical sound sounded again. I am the administrator of the strongest football system, you can call me Xiao Luo. Ronaldo rolled his eyes. The robot looks cool, and Star Wars is his favorite movie. But it's a little strange to appear in the system. It seems that you don't like this image? K2S0 touched his chin. So. In the twinkling of an eye. In front of Ronaldo's eyes, a big blonde beauty with a convex back turned up. The figure is extremely hot. Extremely sexy. When Ronaldo took a look, he felt the blood rushing up, and his nose was a little itchy. Ronaldo hurriedly covered his nose. Aline, you better turn back into a robot. Brush. Robot K2S0 reappears. Ronaldo breathed a sigh of relief. He looked around carefully, and the system seemed to become more vivid, alive, and not as rigid as before. But it doesn't really matter. What matters is exactly what changes have occurred in the system. The most important. It's this. Xiao Luo, the robot, came over. In front of Ronaldo's eyes, a translucent light curtain appeared. Skill tree? Ronaldo was stunned. That's right. It's the skill tree, Xiao Luo said. The power system. Agile department. Department of technology. Isn't that the same as a game? Almost, it's just that this is not playing. These are all true. Which skills you choose, which aspects of your abilities can be enhanced. Sounds like Viagra. Ronaldo looked curiously at the skill tree that seemed to be incomprehensible. Most of the skills are gray, a small number are light blue, and 2 are red. Ronaldo took a closer look. The 2 red ones are Air Lord and King of the Forbidden Zone, which are the 2 skills he possesses. The light blue description can be possessed at your current level, but it needs to be lit by skill points. In addition to lighting up new skills, skill points can also upgrade existing skills, like this. So how do I level up and how can I have skill points? Leveling up gives you skill points. Aren't you talking nonsense? You said to upgrade. If you upgrade, you can upgrade if you have enough experience. Experience can be gained by completing missions, scoring goals, assisting, receiving honorary awards. There is also training. Training can also gain experience. Mission? Yes, quests. Quests are divided into main quests and side quests. Main quests are tasks that you have to complete. If you can't complete them, then you can't level up. Side quests are less restrictive. Are optional tasks. You can do it or not, you can increase your experience, and if you don't do it, you have nothing to lose. If you want to level up faster, you can choose to do some side quests. But if some side quests conflict with the main quest, you'll need to weigh the pros and cons. Ronaldo was dumbfounded. Good football, how to make it like a game. You say, training can also gain experience? That's right, in addition to gaining experience, training can also improve your basic ability? Basic abilities? Yes, it is the strength index, endurance index, sensitivity index, and ball sense index. Ronaldo nodded. He opens his properties panel. Host, Ronaldo, age, 18 years old, strength index, 89, endurance index, 80, sensitivity index, 64, spherical index, 40, skills, Air Lord, King of the Restricted Zone. He found that after the past few days of training, except for the ball sense index, the other indices have increased a little. This shows. Training is absolutely useful. So, what about this stadium? Ronaldo asked, pointing to the pitch. This is a super training ground. Super training ground? Yes. On the super training ground, you can train without time limit, and any fatigue injuries from training will be erased after the training is over. Such a dick. Ronaldo's eyes shine. For athletes, it's not about singing better at training time. Humans are not machines after all. You also need to rest. But if there is such a training ground, wouldn't that be unlimited training? Ronaldo left and took a step towards the pitch. Why are you going? Training. Ronaldo said, of course. He is not even a bronze-level player now, of course, he has to train hard and improve his strength. Episode 15, the first game, that night. Ronaldo threw himself into boring training. Inside the super training ground. In addition to basic training facilities, there are teammates, coaches. As realistic as in reality. After several hours of continuous training, Ronaldo ended up almost lying on the grass. End training. Ronaldo didn't even have the strength to speak. However, at the moment he finished training, it seemed that a barrier had been spilled on him. Suddenly, all tiredness is rolled up in one go. Ronaldo got up from the training ground refreshed. With horror on his face. It's a bit too unbelievable. If you also come to such a hand in the game, won't you always be able to maintain a full physical competition? Think too much, you can only have this effect on the training ground. Xiao Luo came out and poured cold water. Ronaldo smiled and didn't care. He opens the properties panel. The ball sense index has increased a little. Ronaldo was a little pleased. And also upgraded, after one night of training, the ball sense increased a little and went up one level. Wouldn't it only take a month or two to become the best player in the world? The increase in ball sense index also includes the accumulation of some time ago, and last night's training you gained a total of 800 experience, plus the previous mission gained 200 experience, you have reached the conditions for promotion. Xiao Luo explained. It's not hard to upgrade. Don't be happy too early, when the level is low, the experience required for upgrading is relatively small, and the upgrade experience required for each level is exponentially multiplied. Now the upgrade is fast, and when it comes to the back, it is slow. Ronaldo roughly understood. This is similar to the system of online games. The further back you go, the slower the upgrade. Ronaldo took a nap. After dawn, he came to the training ground and trained for the day in advance. He always does these days. Arrive at the training ground an hour earlier than your teammates. Bar is very satisfied with Ronaldo's training attitude. Even if you have talent, if you don't work hard, you will inevitably disappear in the future. But today, the team didn't train much. Because in the afternoon, the team will start the official competition of the new season of the Youth League. The home of Paris Saint-Germain's youth team is within the training base. There is a small court at the training base. The stands can accommodate more than 2,000 people. Youth team matches are rarely eligible to attend at the Parc des Princes. Mostly in the training base than the fun. There were also not many spectators in the stands. Most of them were relatives and friends of the players, as well as some journalists, and some scouts from all over the world. The opponents of the team today are not strong. In Group A, Paris Saint-Germain's youth team is stronger than the other teams. Before the start of the game, the players stood on the sidelines and formed a circle to surround head coach Bar in the middle. Bar wrote and drew on the tactical board and explained the tactics of the game to the players. The tactics of the youth competition are relatively simple, mainly based on encouragement, encouraging everyone to play at a normal level and show their talents and abilities to the fullest. Unlike the senior team, there are so many tactical encounters. Youth games rely more on the shining performance of a talented player to determine the outcome of the game, and the media pay attention to the youth game, and will never praise how skilled a youth team manager is, but will praise a young player for how well he performed in the weekend. Bar looked at Ronaldo. In this game we play around Ronaldo, pass the ball to the wing as fast as possible and then cross. Ronaldo, what to do next, do you understand? Leave it to me, Mr. Bar. Ronaldo grinned. He had great respect for Bar. This gentleman can be said to be very helpful to Ronaldo. 1 week into the team, Ronaldo was put in the squad. Now it's a direct starter for Ronaldo. To be honest, Bar's decision surprised his aides a little. However, when they think of Ronaldo's ravaging their own defense line on the training ground this week, they take it for granted. Such a big killer, if you don't start, it's unreasonable. Bar smiled. He found that this kid was very excited, as if he didn't know what nervousness was. It's the same size as him. This kid's heart is not ordinarily big. Then come on. Everybody, Bar didn't have any more nonsense either. Again, the youth team doesn't pay much attention to tactics. More importantly, what is the performance of the players on the field? Episode 16 was my first step in conquering the world, at this time in the media gallery. Several journalists sat there. In fact, if the match hadn't been for Paris Saint-Germain's youth team, even journalists might not have had it. Not many fans will follow the youth team. If these journalists make a living writing about youth team matches, they may not even be able to eat. However, Paris Saint-Germain is also a big team, so even the youth team has a certain amount of fan attention. At least fans in the greater Paris area will still pay attention to whether there are any goblins in their own teams. Although Grand Paris is now a team supported by local tycoons, for fans, they still hope to see their own youth training goblins provoke. This is a plot that many team fans will have. Huh? Who's this? At this time, a reporter looked at the youth team list of Paris Saint-Germain in his hand and asked with some doubt. This is number 29. Ronaldo, what a strange name. Normally, the shirt prepared by the club for Ronaldo should have the name in the first and last surname, that is, not well UO. But Ronaldo felt that this spelling was a bit out of line with the meaning of his name. Therefore, he wants the team to directly follow the grammar of Chinese, which is Ronaldo. Inside the player tunnel, Ronaldo stood at the back of the line, waiting to make his appearance. The opposing players all turned their heads a little strangely to look at Ronaldo. This is really Ronaldo's bit too eye-catching. An oriental face, not the thin body of an oriental player. He was so strong that the Valenciennes youth team players felt a little weak. Before the game, when their head coach got Ronaldo's information, he also frowned. Because this information simply has Ronaldo's age, height, and weight information, nothing more. As a result, the old-school youth coach could only guess that Ronaldo's height and weight and jersey number were a high school striker. Good at headers. Therefore, he told the players to prevent the opponent's header attack. But when Ronaldo actually stood in front of the Valenciennes youth players, they couldn't help but gasp. Ronaldo, stronger than they thought. Such a striker rushed up, and I don't know if the small body of the youth team players can carry it. Soon, amid the cheers of the sparse fans in the stands, players from both teams began to walk onto the pitch. In the stands, both fans, journalists, and scouts immediately noticed Ronaldo. In addition to the goalkeepers, these journalists do not recall that there were more than 1.9 meters in the youth team at Paris Saint-Germain. Take a look, who is that? A. Oriental? Oh my god, when did Paris bring in an Oriental? Han people? Or Japanese? He's the Ronaldo, right? I didn't see this guy in the Paris youth squad last time. The reporters commented in amazement. The fans were also a little surprised. And it's not to blame them for all the fuss. Ronaldo signing with the club is a trivial matter. He is not a star player, nor is he a young talent with high hopes for fame at a young age. He is an ordinary player who joins the team through self-promotion. The club did not give much publicity to the matter. It is not even mentioned on its own official website. Therefore, even the most die-hard supporters, unless they personally go to the training ground of the youth team, they may know that the youth team has such a guy. Some journalists have already made up their minds that as soon as the game is over, they must get the interview materials of Ronaldo as soon as possible. The youth team of the team has added an Oriental, which is very gimmicky reporting material. The commotion in the stands also caught the attention of the players. The teammate sitting on the bench looked at Ronaldo and said, "Why don't I have a reporter to interview?" The teammate next to him patted him on the head. "If you are a big man with black hair and yellow skin, I think there will be media that will also be interested in you." Ronaldo walked onto the pitch with his teammates, with his head held high. He saw a slight commotion in the stands, and a slight smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Look, from today onwards, you'll have to remember me, Ronaldo." Ronaldo thought. He looked at the stage. There are not many people. But this is a start. Line up to shake hands and take a group photo. The captains of both sides pick sides. And Ronaldo took advantage of this time to let Kimpembe on the bench take a picture of him. "It's just a normal game, Ronaldo." Jean Pumbe held the mobile phone and said with some disgust. "No, it's not the same for me." Ronaldo smiled. He rubbed Kimpembe's head. "This is my first step in conquering the world." Kimpembe was stunned for a moment. To be precise, he was frightened. The look on Ronaldo's face showed that he wasn't joking. Wait until he looks at Ronaldo's broad back and runs towards the center circle. Jean Pumbe said to Nan, "Open." What a joke. Conquer the world? Do you think you are the king of the ball? Kim Pumbe thought. Merely. Why do I always think this guy can do it? Episode 17, The Monster Shock. Wait until all the pre-match rituals are over. Ronaldo stood in the center circle, ready to tee off. He stepped on the ball under his feet and looked at today's opponent. His opponents are also looking at Ronaldo. This guy is very new to them. In fact, they played Paris Saint-Germain last season and did not have Ronaldo in the squad at that time. Valenciennes youth head coach César Rogling is also watching Ronaldo. The appearance of an unexpected person on the opponent is certainly worth observing. The game hasn't officially started yet, but César is somewhat interested in Ronaldo. Such a strong body is rare in the youth team. Moreover, his two central defenders, Christophe Martinez and David Rousseau, are not too tall. Christophe is 181 centimeters tall, while David Rousseau is taller, 186 centimeters, not as tall as the opposing high school striker. Caesar rubbed his hands, a little worried that his two central defenders would be overwhelmed by the other party's big man. And Ronaldo also looked at his two opponents. He can't wait to test how powerful his header is in real combat. Looking at the two little men not far away, he pouted. David Rousseau swears he was absolutely not mistaken. The big man in the east on the opposite side showed a very disdainful look. Such an expression made him angry. He is the main central defender of Valenciennes youth team, and no one in the youth league has dared to make such an expression on him. But he just saw it. He pulled his partner Christophe. That kid looks down on us, he said, pointing to Ronaldo's back. Christophe was slightly stunned. He thought he had misheard. A strange face who has just appeared in the youth league dare to look down on himself. The first time I met him, there was no wrong, why did he look down on me? He thought of Ronaldo's height and nodded. He must think that if he has the height, he can beat us in the high ball. Give him a good look, David Rousseau said with his fists clenched. Good. Christophe's eyes also showed a fierce light. The two of them are old partners, starting with the junior team, they have been partners. Therefore, the two of them have a very tacit understanding. Your height is taller than me, when the time comes to interfere with him with your body, I will fight for the header. Christopher shrank simply. David Rousseau did not disagree. The two of them joining forces will definitely give this big man a good look. With the referee's whistle, the competition has officially begun. The PSG players also know what they have to do. The team has spent the past week practicing the tactic, crosses from the wing and feeding Ronaldo the ball. In fact, this set of tactics does not need to be specially drilled, cross on the wing, who wouldn't? But Barr arranged this training session mainly to give Ronaldo the opportunity to run in with the team, let him familiarize himself with the team's cross style, and also let the team familiarize himself with Ronaldo's running. Paris tactics are very simple, attacking from the back, the midfielders quickly divide the football to the wing, and then whether it is a fullback or a fullback, as long as they get the ball, they will cross from the bottom. And only where high-altitude balls, let Ronaldo compete for the top. If you have the opportunity, you will go straight to goal, and if you don't have the opportunity to head the goal, you will cross the 2 points and let the attacking midfielder Rabiot take the ball and deal with it. Very simple tactics. Ronaldo decided to try it first, to see how it felt about today's game. Saw the football being passed to the wing. He raised his arm high and motioned for his teammates to pass him the ball. The other party naturally knows what they are going to do. Watch him. Watch out for their crosses, the goalkeeper of the Valenciennes youth team pointed at Ronaldo and shouted. When football is passed on. Ronaldo clearly felt that his judgment of the football landing point seemed to be clearer. After possessing the skill of the king of the box, Ronaldo feels that as long as he enters the box, he can always find a feeling that as long as the football is passed in, the one in his mind has a clear judgment of the line and landing point of the football. And the next thing to do is smash the ball into the goal. Two centre-backs, as they had previously arranged, went to cling to Ronaldo, making it difficult for him to jump. David Rousseau was right behind Genato's side, and his body crashed directly at Ronaldo. Ronaldo jumped up, he felt the other party's interference with her, but he didn't care. He can do fake movements, such as pulling forward, and then shaking a shot or something. But he didn't. Because, just behind this weak chicken, he can't stop himself. It's okay to run, but no need. His eyes were always fixed on the football, and his body went straight towards David Rousseau. Off the field, Valenciennes youth coach Caesar almost burst out laughing. Instead of mocking Ronaldo, he smiled reassuringly. This big man looks quite terrifying, but he is an inexperienced rookie. Where is there such a way to grab something? Isn't this right in the heart of the defensive player? Don't even look for a gap. There is no more defender who forces this. David Rousseau saw Ronaldo coming with a dark face, and he smiled inwardly. It seems that he is overly nervous. This kid is a rookie. Maybe you don't need Christopher to finish off this guy by yourself. But, soon he was wrong. And it's very wrong. Before he could crash into the other party, Ronaldo was already squeezing towards him. Human instinct for danger makes David Rousseau want to hide, but his whole person is in the air, how to hide? Right at this time. Ronaldo's rising curve horrified him. The other side jumped. Too high. Before he could react, Ronaldo had already jumped more than one head higher than him, and whistled and pressed down. Tarzan's rush to the top. Football, just like that, flew over David Rousseau's head into the goal of the Valenciennes youth team. Wah! There were only 200 or 300 people in the stands, but at this moment, all of them exclaimed. Ronaldo could feel a man beneath him. but he didn't bother to see who it was. Anyway, just put the ball in. As a center, his character is done. David Rousseau collided with Ronaldo in the air, but it was like a car crashing into a big truck. Ronaldo didn't react at all, he was ejected instead. This is really not an exaggeration. It's like a small ball hitting a big ball in the air. The flight path of the big ball remains the same, while the small ball does not know where to fly. Christopher was dumbfounded. This scene, he completely looked into his eyes. David Rousseau was no match for that guy at all. He was still waiting for David to be able to use his explosive power and confrontation ability to cause a little more trouble for Ronald, and then jump and take the ball away by himself, but before he could show his skills, David was defeated. Completely. Unstoppable. Christopher felt a little scared in his heart. He looked at Ronaldo falling from the sky. It's like looking at a monster. Episode 18, Impulsive Temper, from Manchester United Scouts. The smile on Caesar, the head coach of Valenciennes youth team, stiffened. While he was still smiling confidently, Ronaldo crushed his players with Tarzan's overpower, and then sent the ball into the goal. The goalkeeper was completely unable to react, not even making a save, and watched the football fly into the goal of his handle. Ronaldo, who fell from the sky, roared up to the sky. He was very happy with his goal. Yes. That's how it feels. Anyone who dares to stand in my way will have to die. Ronaldo's goal, everyone present was speechless. Many people haven't even reacted. They just saw a big man rushing straight to the other side's defenses. Then, the two men jumped opposite each other, after which the defender was bounced off, and the big man put the ball headlong into the goal. This scene is so shocking. Even the referee was stunned. He hesitated and blew the whistle in his mouth. It's just not to signal that the goal is valid, but to blow Ronaldo's offensive foul. Hit someone. The referee raised his arm and signaled the defender to take a free kick at the back. Ronaldo just looked up to the sky very proudly, fully venting the emotions in his heart. Thinking that this was the result, it made his previous celebration seem to be a slap in the face, so he was very angry. The stunned Ronaldo asked the referee with an angry face, "Are you mistaken? How can this be a foul?" The angry Ronaldo didn't even use English, but Mandarin with a Sichuanshu accent. He rushed to the referee, opened his mouth and questioned the referee, looking as if he was a beast that chose people to eat. Toot toot. A sharp and piercing whistle sounded. The referee was not intimidated, he raised his hand and gave Ronaldo a yellow card. Confused, Ronaldo was completely unaware of how inappropriate what he had just done was. This yellow card he didn't want to eat. After being fouled, he bumped into the referee and gave a yellow card. It's just that he doesn't think that what he just did was a foul, he just thinks that the opposing defender is too vulnerable. Just as he was about to continue saying something, his teammates rushed up and hugged him. 3 teammates dragged him down. Calm down. Gauze. Do you want a red card to start with? They shouted in French. Ronaldo didn't understand much, but he understood his current situation. It was really dangerous just now, and if his teammate came up later, it was estimated that a red card would await him. Impulsivity is the devil. Ronaldo reacted. Before, my father told me not to be impulsive, but sometimes he still couldn't control his emotions, especially in extremely exhilarative situations, such as after scoring a goal. Seeing Ronaldo being pulled away by his teammates, Barr on the sidelines breathed a sigh of relief. He was really worried that this kid would apply for a red card himself. In this way, his debut is completely smashed. Being sent off just in the opening game is arguably the fastest red card record in the youth league this season. This kid. It's really not worrying. And at this time in the stands, a lot of scouts are writing a book. An extremely strong high school striker with extremely strong confrontation ability. There's height, there's bounce, there's power, and great heading skills. But my temper seems a little bad. One scout wrote on his scouting report. A guy next to him, who seemed to be his companion, inadvertently leaned in. But the scout quickly closed his own notebook. His peers did not see what he wrote. However, just as he was shocked, he saw a familiar team crest. Manchester United. This guy is a scout for Premier League supergiants, Manchester United. The guy, who tried to see what his peers were writing, typed a line on his phone. Boss, Paris Saint-Germain has a new man popping up, a high school striker, and Manchester United seemed to have some interest in him. He then clicked the send button. In just 1 or 2 minutes, that one performance alone was enough for Ronaldo to be noticed. The journalists were even more excited. A good high school striker. Very grumpy. The reporters had smiles on their faces. They like people like that. A guy with a bad temper can make more news, can't you? Episode 19. On this day, I won't let him come too late. Scouts from Manchester United had a glint in their eyes. Since Cristiano Ronaldo left Manchester United, Ferguson has been looking for strikers who can consistently score goals for United. Rooney was great. But the recent contract dispute between Wayne Rooney and Manchester United has not been resolved. Therefore, Ferguson ordered his scouting team to find the next striker they could rely on as soon as possible. Judging from Ronaldo's performance just now, it was enough to make the scouts' eyes shine. But whether Ronaldo can enter Ferguson's eyes, I am afraid that more performance will be required. He looked around. He was sure that at least 10 of those hundreds were scouts from major clubs. He quietly left the station and came to a slightly more secluded spot in the stadium stands. Took out the DV from the inside of the bag and aimed it at Ronaldo. At the very least, he needed a video of Ronaldo's performance, and then went back and slowly analyzed Ronaldo's characteristics. Ronaldo didn't know. In the stands, it's not just a scout who is interested in his performance. When the game started, he was still looking for a chance to score. Having been blown before, Ronaldo was holding a breath in his heart. Soon, Paris Saint-Germain, playing at home, attacked the back line of the Valenciennes youth team. Their means of attack are simple. Outrageously simple. But it's very effective. It is that the two wings frequently raise high balls into the opponent's penalty area. And then it's time to watch Ronaldo's performance. And it didn't take long. When football is passed again, Ronaldo jumped high and forced the opposing defender to head the ball again. This time the goalkeeper reacted. He jumped and saved the ball off the line. Although blocking Ronaldo's header, the Valenciennes youth goalkeeper was not happy in the slightest. Because, then comes the corner kick. Ronaldo stands in front of the goal, in the middle of the box. He raised his right hand high and motioned for his teammates to pass the ball over his head. All eyes were on him. In the corner of the stands, the Manchester United scout also pushed his camera a little bit into the shot. Locked the restricted area. After watching what he had just done in the air, everyone was eager to see what he would do next. Christopher and David Rousseau, clinging to Ronaldo. But in vain. These two people are completely unable to compete with Ronaldo physically. 3 jumped at the same time. Christopher and David Rousseau lost one after another, and the landing point was completely occupied by Ronaldo. Shake your head and attack. The goalkeeper flew to the rescue. But this time, he failed to save the team. The ball flew into the goal from the tip of his finger. The hundreds of die-hard Paris Saint-Germain fans in the stands roared with huge cheers. Many people applauded and whistled to express their excitement. It was originally just an extremely ordinary youth team match, and the vast majority of the people sitting in the stands, except for a few die-hard Paris fans, were relatives of the players and the like. However, Ronaldo's performance managed to ignite the atmosphere of the stadium. His consecutive headers left the opponent almost without any way to counteract. He brazenly showed off his body and heading ability in the box, knocking over opposing defenders and bumping into the referee, which made the fans in the stands rush with adrenaline. Even the celebration after his goal made the fans in the stands get their blood pumping. Barr looked at Ronaldo on the sidelines with his arms open and looking at the stands. At the same time, I also looked at the stage, although the number of fans was small, but everyone stood on the seat, clapping, whistling, cheering. Such a scene, I have led the team to play in the youth league for so many years. Basically, I have never seen it. This kid is really a natural star. He suddenly had a feeling that his youth team might not be able to keep this kid for long. Ronaldo brazenly celebrated his goal. There are no fouls on this ball. He waved his fists excitedly in celebration. It was his first goal in Paris. He had only joined the team a week ago and surprised his teammates with how quickly his first goal came. Well done, Ro. That's awesome. Go on. Keep flipping them. Paris Saint-Germain's youth team players have a feeling. That's the game as long as Ronaldo is there. They all seem to be able to crush their opponents with ease. Just get the ball in the air. Next, Ronaldo will get everything done. Ronaldo's goal gave Paris Saint-Germain a 1-0 lead over Valenciennes juniors. If Ronaldo was unhappy with the goal. That is, this is just an ordinary youth league. It was played on a very small course and there were not many games from the spectators. Their cheers weren't loud enough. There was no radio shouting "Gulul" to cheer him on. There is no telecast. No commentator racked his brains to come up with a nice word to cheer his goal. On the small stage of the youth league, none of that. Ronaldo clenched his fists and looked at the empty stands. Someday, I'll celebrate my goal in the crowded stands. And, this day, I won't let him come too late. Episode 20, I really want to be famous. When the game is over. The score on the scoreboard is 4-0. Paris Saint-Germain beat their opponents 4-0 at home. And these 4 balls. It's all Ronaldo. Ronaldo's super dominance in the air made his opponent completely confused. In the first game of his debut, he completed his senior year. When the game was over, almost all eyes were on Ronaldo. The Manchester United scout's hand holding the camera was shaking slightly. Compared to ordinary people, this kid's career debut competition is really amazing. Although all 4 balls are headers. But the scout wouldn't mind. As long as you can score, even if it is in an indescribable part. From this game, not only did Ronaldo's super heading ability show, but it can also be seen that this guy has a heart for a striker who constantly pursues goals. In this game alone, Ronaldo became the brightest star of the game. When he turned the camera off, he had already made his decision. This video should be given to the senior management of the club as soon as possible. Best. It was Sir Alex Ferguson who saw it for himself. Although I don't know what the future holds for Ronaldo, but none of this is a reason to miss him. The scout hurried out of the stands. He glanced left and right and saw many guys in black jackets hurriedly making phone calls. He knew, after the day, Ronaldo of Paris Saint-Germain youth team will be the focus of attention of many teams. Barr knows this, too, but he tries to make Ronaldo famous a little later. As soon as the game was over, journalists from the news media flocked to interview Ronaldo. Ronaldo watched the group of reporters rushing up and was not overwhelmed by fright, but stood in place and posed, ready to wait for the reporters to come up and press the shutter. You can take any posture you want, you can go deeper. This is the first time Ronaldo has been interviewed in his life. He had an excited smile on his face. If more media reports on him, won't he soon become a star? Ronaldo was happy. But his dream was shattered by Barr. We're sorry, but our players don't accept any interviews. He blocked all the reporters in front of him and then motioned for Ronaldo to leave the stadium quickly. Ronaldo knows that it is the manager who is in the protection of young players. But he doesn't need protection. He can't wait to be interviewed by reporters. Interview me. Let me be famous. Ronaldo wanted to yell at the female reporter in front of him in a white tight t-shirt. It's best to have a private interview. To the hotel. The kind that opens a house. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to take a second look before he was swallowed back to the locker room by his teammates. When he looked back, he saw that Barr had been surrounded by reporters. Ronaldo's eyes were a little envious. I want to be famous. I'm going to be a star. Ronaldo roared inwardly. Unwillingly, Ronaldo was dragged into the locker room by his teammates. Barr, on the other hand, is on the outside trying to fend off the onslaught from the media. May I ask Mr. Barr, what is the origin of that number 29? Is he a Han national, a Japanese, or a native of the Celestial Empire? His performance in this game is amazing. Is this a new star that Paris Saint-Germain has recruited? He spoke ill of the referee during the game and seemed like a bad boy. Is he French? A barrage of questions was smashed at Barr. Although Barr has led the youth team at Paris Saint-Germain for 6 or 7 years, such a team is really rarely experienced. He had to repeat, no comment. Sorry, I said no comment. Barr was completely surrounded by journalists. A cold sweat broke out of his back. He somewhat regretted that he had raised himself, and he knew that it would be good to pull Ronaldo back to the dressing room, and it was really not a good thing to block himself in front of this group of vulture-like reporters. May I ask Mr. Barr? Well, I have a question. I'm from Paris Saint-Germain, why don't we know there's such a person in the team? No comment. No comment. Nothing, may, offer. Just as Barr was being pestered by journalists. A video was sent to Manchester United's academy. Manchester United's youth director McClare's office. This urgent email just caught McClare's attention in the office. A young player with the potential to become a first-class center or even a top center? He saw the title. He then downloaded the video. When he saw Ronaldo's performance in this game, even McClare's eyes were full of light. He immediately forwarded the email to the team's head coach, Alex Ferguson. He then dialed Ferguson's phone. Boss, there's a little one, I think we're going to pay attention.